7 minutes each. At 7:30, you are permitted to clap people off and throw things at them. And as per the AFF Constitution, you have a constitutionally protected right to give a witty retort during anyone's speech. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome the first speaker for the event, Jessica Coulson, to the stage.
Mr. Speaker, when a person can determine what goes on in a law firm, the culture of that law firm, a lot of factors in that law firm, we think they should have to bear responsibility for the harms that occur in that law firm. And we think specifically when it comes to the legal industry, senior partners should have to pay for the counselling bills of their junior lawyers because the harms are so great, because they should bear responsibility, and because those junior lawyers simply cannot wear that burden. So, what am I going to talk about in today's debate? Firstly, the mental harm specific to the legal industry. Secondly, why in fact senior partners should be responsible. And thirdly, why junior lawyers should not bear that burden. But firstly, I want to clarify a few matters with our model. So basically, we want to set up a system whereby junior lawyers can seek counselling for matters pertinent to their legal work and get that money reimbursed by senior partners. By junior lawyers, we mean people who are new in that industry, people who have been working in that industry for less than 5 years. We think that's because they are particularly vulnerable, but I'm going to talk more about that later. We're happy to say that this applies to all firms, but specifically it's very pertinent to larger firms. By counselling bills, we mean counselling bills that are related to work in that industry. So we're not happy to say that senior partners will reimburse counselling for a lawyer who's seeking counsel for, marital problems. It's specifically for work that they've undertaken in the legal industry. We don't think this will be abused because we think it's important that counsellors do make sure that these counselling sessions are only pertinent to work undertaken in the legal industry. Yes.
If you really want to help mental health, why are you limiting it to a ridiculously small, sensitive area?
Well, Mike's going to talk about more in his speech about how when you force senior partners to be accountable in this sense, that you change the culture of the legal industry to have better initiatives to deal with mental health in the first instance, so they don't have to pay counselling bills in the second instance. That's something that you don't deal with on that side of the house. So firstly, onto this first issue, the specific harms. And we think that's a very simple point. That's why we're all here today, because we know that the mental harms are so specific in this industry. They're so harmful in this industry. We see that 31% of solicitors suffer from some sort of mental disorder. 90% of barristers have some sort of psychological distress. And 11% of these people will contemplate suicide every month. We don't think the statistics lie. We think the harms are very pertinent in this case. But the harms go further than that, right? Because if a lawyer is suffering psychological distress, it means that then their client suffers. And that's something we see in the legal industry more than most other industries, which is why we're singling the legal industry out in that sense and making sure that senior partners are accountable in that sense. Because we think when you have junior lawyers suffering psychological distress, that impacts on all the work they do, and as a result, all the work that their clients will receive. We think that's very important. On to this second point. Why should senior partners be responsible? Because we want to clearly distinguish with being responsible for something and actually always being to blame. Because we acknowledge that senior partners won't always be to blame for every psychological distress or every disorder that a junior partner has. But we believe that they should be the ones that bear that responsibility. Why? A few reasons. Firstly, no thank you. They obviously determine a lot of the work that junior partners, do in that industry. They have a lot of scope to determine what sort of undertakings a junior worker can do in that sense. But secondly, they influence a lot of culture in that firm. They influence the hours that lawyers work. They influence the way in which lawyers work. They influence the way in which they will take care of themselves. They will influence the way in which lawyers go take breaks. They will influence the way in which how much lawyers take holidays. We think senior partners play an integral role in influence the culture in that law firm, in that they determine all the practices of that law firm. So we think they should have to bear responsibility in that sense. But thirdly, no thank you, we think senior partners bear responsibility for new initiatives in that firm. And that's something that Mike's going to talk about more in his speech. But we think basically, no thank you, that it's important that they are the ones in that sense. But nextly, they have, as an employer, we feel a social responsibility to look out for junior employers, right? Because we think if someone suffered a physical harm on the job, then we don't see a particular difference between someone claiming money for that mental harm, like they would with a physical harm if they were injured on the job. We don't understand why if someone has a mental harm and that is from being on the job, we don't understand why in that instance they can't claim compensation for that. And we think the best compensation is the compensation for seeking a counsellor, something that they've been driven to, and something that they should receive reimbursement for. So, last point, why junior lawyers should not be responsible. We think it's true for most industries that when new employees go on the job market, they are often naive and unprepared for work. But we think this is especially true in the legal industry. Many young lawyers are often vulnerable in this industry because they aren't fully prepared for the stressful environment. But often junior lawyers are not in a position to question the culture of that firm. They are not in a position to say, no, I need to take a break because of the repercussions that that will cause. They could get fired. They could face animosity from older workers. So we think junior lawyers should not have to bear that responsibility